Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all so much for joining. I'm so excited to dig into all of the content we have to cover today, and I think it's going to be a really great presentation. So with that said, I do want to give folks just another minute or two here to join and get situated. And I do want to make sure that everyone is able to use the question box feature in the GoToWebinar panel. Now, you won't be able to chat directly to me or to any of the attendees here. There is no chat feature. So the question box feature is essentially going to be like your chat feature for the day. So if you want to type into that question box, and I'll see your questions come in or your responses here, just type into that question box and say, hey, say hi, let me know where you're calling in from today. I'll call out some of the answers here. One of the great things about these webinars is they bring people together from all different corners of the world. So I just love to always hear and see, where you all are calling in from, where you're located, what, your home state is, or whatever it may be. So type into that question box, let me know, say hey in there, and I'll call out some of the responses here while we give folks another second to join. I'll start things off. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. Actually, I was living in Salem, Massachusetts, where the witches are from, if anyone's familiar with that. But I just recently moved to Denver, Colorado last summer. So I'm loving it here. And we have a ton of folks already chatting in. We have Rebecca from Illinois. Hi. Allie from Raleigh, North Carolina. We have Laura from Scottsdale, Arizona. Andre from Arizona. Tammy from California. Hello. Angela from West Palm Beach, Florida. I also used to live in West Palm. Hello. John from Philly and South Jersey. Let's go. Lindsay from Saskatchewan, Canada. Tyler from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Tara from Bay Area, California. Awesome. So tons of other folks coming in. I wish I could call out every single one of you, but there weren't a lot of locations that I said more than once. I see some folks from Colorado in there too. Hello, neighbors, my new neighbors. But thanks for participating in that. So I just want you to feel like you're able to type in that question box. I saw someone else ask about the witches in Salem. Ping me after. I could go on and on about that. But yeah, this is great. Thanks for saying hey. And I just want you to feel like you can drop your questions in there throughout this presentation today. So with that, let's dig into some just quick housekeeping items. I have a few things to cover before we get into the meat and potatoes of the content. So for everyone on this call, please note that this will be recorded. You don't have to worry about taking notes or anything like that. We record all of our webinars, and you can easily find this webinar recording later today and all of our past webinar recordings on the WordStream and Local IQ YouTube channels. And again, if you're attending this webinar, you're going to get a copy of the slides and the recording directly in your inbox. So you'll have multiple ways to access this presentation later. Also, as I mentioned, yes, be sure to keep an eye on your inbox for the materials later. And again, the reason why I had to use that little warm up with the Q&A box is I want you to feel like you can use the question box. We do always host a 10-minute or so Q&A session at the end, which is a pretty unique experience. If you've attended any of our past webinars, you know they can go pretty in depth. It's kind of like you get me to answer your questions in what feels like a one-on-one setting. So be sure to save your questions for the end there. And I just want to quickly introduce Local IQ to all of us here. Now, some of you might be already familiar with Local IQ. Some of you might be already working with us, and that's great. Some of you might be totally new and welcome. And some of you might be familiar with our legacy brands and sister brands, WordStream and Reach Local. So for everyone on this call, please understand that Local IQ is a fully integrated growth marketing platform that gives your business everything it needs to thrive and prosper in digital marketing. And so how we do that is we provide platform-specific, campaign-specific recommendations informed by over 5.2 million different campaigns that we've run throughout history. We also have local marketing experts that are trained specifically in your industries to give you the recommendations that you need. And we provide tools and AI-powered options at your fingertips to help streamline your digital marketing experience and to save you time and money and resources on running and promoting your business. So something that we're really, really proud about here at Local IQ is that we are a platform partner with all of the major advertising platforms. So this isn't just granted to every marketing platform out there. We have to hit a rigorous set of requirements with our campaigns for our customers. We have to be setting thought leadership, sharing ideas, and we have to be very involved in the space and have, again, proven track record and results to earn these partner badges. So we're really proud of that. We have delivered over 270 million leads for our customers, helped businesses generate nearly $16 billion in revenue, and we've helped business owners and marketers save nearly 140 million hours of work. So we're really proud of that. A little bit about me, your host and facilitator for today, the person that's been talking to you for the last 10 minutes. Hello, it's wonderful to meet you all. My name is Susie. I'm a senior content marketing specialist over at Local IQ, where I write educational content on everything under the digital marketing sun, from SEO to PPC to display ads to OTT advertising to content marketing, anything and everything, email marketing, you name it, I've written about it. And how I got into this role was I formerly was a digital marketing consultant over at WordStream, where I was coaching folks like many of you on this call through the day-to-day best practices on major platforms like Google Ads, Microsoft Ads, Facebook Ads, and so on. So I took that real life experience of coaching people through working through their business advertising accounts and applied it to the educational content that I write and present today. As I mentioned before, I just recently moved to Colorado. You all can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter, or X as we are calling it now. I do share out any like reports that I've done, anything that advertisers should be aware of, webinars that we have coming up, and so on. And lastly, but most importantly, because this gets asked quite a lot on webinars, a lot of folks are always asking us, where can you find out more about the topics that we cover on these webinars? Where can you find out more about the products and services that Local IQ can offer to you? All of that. Be sure to check out the Local IQ and WordStream websites. We cover everything we cover on these webinars in depth on our blogs. This hour is going to fly by, so if you ever feel like you need a little bit more time with any of the topics that we cover here, just navigate over to our blog and you'll be able to find in-depth articles, take your time with it, save them, whatever you would like to do. And you can also follow us on social media if you want to attend more of these webinars in the future. So be sure to check out Local IQ and WordStream on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, and YouTube. And just another little shout out for our YouTube channels that are linked right there and shown right there. You can find this webinar recording and all of our past recordings on our YouTube channels. So with that, if you've attended any of our last webinars, I love to keep our audience on their toes. So please just type into that question box. I'm going to hit you with a little pop quiz to warm you up to today's topic. Do you think that AI is helping or hurting your online visibility? Has it been helping your strategies? Has it been helping you target or adjust your content to be ranking more? Or do you think it's maybe taking away from how you're ranking, taking away from how you're approaching your traditional marketing strategies? Just let me know how you're feeling about AI, because that's basically what the name of the game is for this webinar today. So I just want to, get a little feel out there. I'll call out some of the responses here. And a ton of people already typing in. Some people are calling out that they do think it's hurting their rankings. However, Robert says that he feels like it's helping. That's great to see. Aspen says both. It depends on the content. Definitely true. Kristen says helping. Christopher says helping to produce more content. Definitely fair. That is a very common use case for it. We have other folks saying it's helping. Veronica also says both. She says it's streamlining her creative, but also can, take some drawbacks away from some of those other strategies that they're deploying. So definitely a ton of variation in these answers here. And if you notice, you're all going to have a different answer to this question, and that's totally okay. So while I'm going to be talking about general best practices and, how you can best use AI, think about how it's going to apply to your unique and specific situation, because that will vary, and that's totally okay. So we'll cover first this AI experiment that I did that's super in-depth. I'm super excited to share it. And then we'll talk about how you can spot AI recommendations that are right or wrong. If you're going to be using it in your marketing, you want to be using it carefully, right? And then we'll talk about some easy, foolproof ways to use AI so that you can try and incorporate it more this year, as it'll be more prominent and more important to do so. And then we'll leave you with some thought starters and do that Q&A that I mentioned. So let's first cover this experiment that I did that is super interesting, and I can't wait to do more of these this year. Basically, we wanted to know, how accurate is AI if all these folks, all these folks on this webinar, even right now, are gonna be asking tools like ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever it is, you know, how do I do this in my marketing? Or can you do this for my marketing? So on and so on. Is that accurate? Are people trusting that and then putting out marketing assets and materials that aren't accurate or aren't the best fit for their business? So we just wanted to see how they perform when we put them to the test. And we were thinking that they weren't going to be 100% right all the time if I'm asking it these questions that really make an impact on my, if I were to own a business, on my marketing. So some of the questions I asked are, you know, like how are AI overviews affecting, you know, my Google Ads performance, or what Google Ads bidding strategies can I choose from? How do I improve my quality score? I have this ad. What do you recommend I do to improve it? What are some keywords I should be using? Those are all typical questions that I bet a lot of folks out there are asking AI tools, and you want the right answer. So let's see what the results came with and see how much you can trust AI when it comes to using it for your search and social advertising and marketing. So it's actually been proven that 1 in 5 AI answers to PPC questions and digital marketing related questions are incorrect. So I asked basically these 5 different tools: AI overviews, ChatGPT, Meta AI, Perplexity, and Google Gemini, the same 45 questions. So I analyzed manually over, or exactly 225 answers from these 5 different tools in totality. And yeah, 1 in 5 of the answers across the tools were incorrect. I'm going to go deeper throughout this presentation into the actual like specifics of which tool was better at which question, because there was a lot of nuance, a lot of variety, but basically, as you can see here, there's kind of like this sliding scale of how more or less accurate each tool is, with AI overviews actually being the least accurate or having the most incorrect answers, which was really interesting. So meanwhile, though, keep in mind, 70% of consumers say that they somewhat trust generative AI search results, but these results show that advertisers should take any AIO result with a grain of salt. Right? So now advertisers have, and should honestly, become more reliant on machine learning algorithms to manage their PPC campaigns, but pairing it with hands-on human expert and oversight, like local IQs, expertise in products and services, is a security component that ensures greater efficiency and better results. Without genuine nuance that a human expert can apply to a marketing campaign, this could lead to a lack of insight into how money is being spent. And many search advertising professionals have found that the quote unquote best practices that AI implements aren't always the best practices for your business, right? And your specific goals. So again, a lot of these tools are giving kind of like generalized advice that doesn't really fit maybe the prompt that I'm asking them or what you specifically need. So really cool here. Let's start off with some of the key kind of points there. I took my research even further, right? So I asked again, ChatGPT, Google's AI overviews and search, Perplexity, Gemini, Meta AI, those same 45 questions about like PPC best practices, like I said, platform specific capabilities and recent industry trends. So Google AI overviews had the highest number of incorrect questions, as you saw on that last slide. And this is concerning, right? Since our recent roundup of AIO statistics for AI overviews found that AIOs are rapidly becoming more prevalent on the search engine results page, showing on 55% of searches. So even though AIOs tend to be the least accurate, they're probably getting seen the most because most searchers are now seeing it on the Google search engine results page. So, you know, data is crucial for understanding what's working and where your budget could be draining. So make sure you have reliable reporting and analytics tools like ours and our own Dash tool that directly integrates your campaigns. This removes the guesswork and provides accurate insights like top search keywords, best days and times for driving performance, cost per lead, and lead types. And that's personalized to you rather than what you might find in an AIO or from ChatGPT. Now, when we ask these tools to create a list of keywords, let's say for keyword research that are high volume, high intent, but with low cost and competition, which I understand is a tall ask, but they should be able to produce this because there are real keyword tools out there that can do that, right? So 4 of the 5 tools could not give quality keyword recommendations. none of the tools provided the actual competition or cost data associated with the terms they recommended. And none of the tools provided niche or long-tailed or conversational queries, which are honestly more important as AI search is becoming more prevalent. People are now changing their queries to be more question-oriented and conversational. So those conversational queries should be a recommendation that we're getting from these tools, and we're not. So that's the biggest red flag here. Like I mentioned earlier, people aren't just clicking, they're asking on search. So with as AI answers questions, we optimize our customers' ads to be part of these search conversations by leveraging advanced natural language processing to refine our keyword strategies here at Local IQ. Based on local market analysis and customized keywords based on your industry and geographical market, and we include the addition of high performing keywords, negative keywords to block irrelevant queries, and competitor keywords. So that way you're able to have a well-rounded keyword strategy that does, track for these conversational queries that are coming in more and more. So it's actually usually not recommended to use AI for keyword research. And we have more articles actually coming out even just this week on the WordStream blog about keyword research tools and why you should be using like real keyword research tools versus just like a general AI tool. I know it's tempting and easy to just go to ChatGPT and ask it for keyword ideas. I get it. I would do it too if I didn't know where to start. But to be honest, like they're not informed with keyword specific data like keyword specific tools are. So they're going to be a little inaccurate with the recommendations. Or I've found when I was testing these tools, a lot of the keywords that they recommend are no-brainers, right? Things that you would already know. Like, of course, if I'm offering, an early childhood education program, the first keyword that would pop up would be early childhood education degree or something like that, right? It's a pretty basic keyword, but of course, it's super high volume, super high competition, high cost. And that's one that you would probably already know, right? So if you're really going to put in effort for keyword research, or you're subscribing to a tool or paying for a tool or a solution or a product or service to help you with your keyword research, you want to get keyword ideas that you wouldn't necessarily think of yourself. So AI tools aren't really trusted for that, I would say. Now, there were 3 outdated Google Ads features that Meta AI and AIOs mentioned. They talked about enhanced CPC bidding, which is phased out. They talked about text ads, which have been phased out for a long time in favor of responsive search ads. And they talked about ad extensions, but they're really called ad assets now. So this kind of proves that like Meta AI and AIOs can be still pulling some outdated information when you're asking it about like platform specific questions. Let's say you're finessing your Google Ads account for your business. You have a couple of questions as you're in there clicking around and optimizing. If you were to ask Meta AI or just search on Google and get an AIO, I would take those results with a grain of salt, because it's going to maybe give you ideas or topics that aren't necessarily in the platform anymore, right? So let's say you're like, how can I build out my ad? If it's recommending ad extensions and I don't know any better that they're called ad assets now, I'm going to have no idea where to go in the platform to find that. So again, just keep in mind that these answers from certain tools can be kind of inaccurate. And again, those features that they talked about weren't just recently updated either. For instance, enhanced cost per click bidding was phased out back in October of 2024, and responsive search ads have been the default ad type for search campaigns since 2023. So if you were asking my opinion, I wouldn't expect any of those 5 tools to have talked about text ads, because again, that happened back in 2023. So it really proves how outdated some of the information or the data that is feeding these certain AI tools can be, right? So let's take another pause for a second and do a quick pop quiz. I'd love to get your opinions on, what's your go-to resource for advice on your marketing strategy? Are you asking, and I'm not saying there is a right or wrong answer. While I did just highlight a few of the ways that AI can be wrong, obviously there is a good percentage where it is correct. So I just want to hear, are you using ChatGPT? Are you using any AI tools? Are you leaning more on a marketing partner or marketing platform? Do you have your own internal team? How are you informing your strategies in your marketing decisions? And are you relying on AI? So I'll call out some of the answers here, but just want to take a quick pulse check once again. Tons of answers already coming in here. Some people are saying they're still not using it at all. They're a little wary. They're not sure how to start. Totally fair. Claire says that she uses, you know, if she's processing analytics, she'll use platform like ChatGPT. Totally fair. Veronica says she refers more to a family member that has a successful business. That's fair too. Diana says she uses Copilot first, then ChatGPT second, Gemini third. That's fair. Andre says he tried to use ChatGPT, but none of its recommendations were effective. I'm not surprised there. John says a mix of a marketing agency partner and a few members of his team. That's fair. Christopher says ChatGPT to kick it off, internal discussion and research too. Some other folks saying they have an internal team. Fair. That's great. So these are all really, really good answers. I couldn't be happier with them, and I wish I could call out all of them. But these are all good examples of ways you can get reliable marketing advice and strategy, and a couple of examples of people that have used different other sources that haven't been great. So that's all super fair. Good answers there. And again, it's okay if your answer was different from what we're recommending in this presentation, or different from what the other folks said. Again, I just want to have you still be thinking about your unique situations and your unique business needs. So back to some of this data here, let's talk about some more ways that AI can be more or less accurate for your advertising. So let's see here. Just going to pull this back up, make sure that you all can see it, because it looks like it just went black. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for just a sec. Let me escape out of this so that you're able to view this presentation. All right. Okay, that slide should be back for you all. So this is another super interesting thing, but all 5 tools had varied answers to average Google Ads costs. Some were totally off base, like when I asked for the most expensive keywords and industries that were in Google Ads, ChatGPT estimated that the average cost per click for costly industries runs up to $300, which is way too high. Even like the most expensive industries, well, I'm sure there's probably an account out there that may have seen that on a rare occasion if they're in a super high volume, high competition industry or market, but it's really unlikely that you're going to see a keyword with an average cost per click of $300. That would be crazy. And I understand that there are some really pricey keywords out there. Trust me, I've seen a keyword with an average cost per click of $175. But 300 just seemed way too high to be taken as an accurate measurement from a tool like ChatGPT. In fact, our 2026 Google Ads benchmarks report reveals that the average overall cost per click for search ads is $5.26. And the highest average cost per click doesn't even come close. So for example, the highest average cost per click that we've recorded in our benchmarks came from the attorney and legal services industry, which is reported to be $8.58. Now, again, that can be higher or lower depending on your unique needs, your industry, your strategy. So we have a couple other webinars and super in-depth reports on average costs in PPC. But again, this is just a guideline, and I would say that the recommendations from these tools were pretty off base. Now, consider how you would want your bad news delivered in this case. If you did have a good or bad PPC performance and you wanted to ask ChatGPT, all right, how does this ad look? How is my campaign performing? Here's my metrics. How would you say I'm doing? Do you think I need to improve? And let's say you gave it a poor performance. As we know, ChatGPT, there's been articles coming out about how its algorithms have been updated multiple times to balance out its suffocancy, which basically is saying that the builders of ChatGPT originally made it too nice almost, where it's going to lean more positively to what you would want to hear. But sometimes when you're working in digital marketing and PPC, you need a neutral perspective or something that's going to tell you, hey, like you need to fix this or improve this. And that's totally okay, right? It's not personal, but you just want to make sure that you're ahead of the competition and you're staying on track with what you can achieve. So let's say you did give it some poor performance. How would you want your bad news delivered? Should AI let you down easy and encourage you to keep going, even if it's not entirely helpful or productive? Or be brutally honest with you that your PPC account needs work? And if it were brutally honest, would that put a bad taste in your mouth and cause you to not want to use the tool, right? If you're kind of hearing what you don't want to hear, you fear to hear, which is fair, right? It's likely that the companies that are backing these AI tools, who are reliant on growing their user base for success, are considering these factors. And that's why it tends to be a little nice. You would like to interact with a tool that's going to be nice to you, of course, but there's I think, a fine line or a balance between being nice and, increasing the user experience, and then also being accurate to what's truthful and what's honest, right? So I thought that was kind of an interesting little detail too, just something else to note. And I think a lot of people have noticed that too, that ChatGPT can be too nice sometimes. And when it comes to digital marketing, that's not always the most productive route. Now, all 5 tools had varied answers to average Google Ads costs, and I did allude to this a little bit in the last couple slides, but some were totally off base. Like I said, ChatGPT estimating the average cost going up to $300 per click. On the other hand, Meta was only able to provide Google Ads costs and performance from our 2024 Google Ads benchmarks, but technically our 2025 benchmarks are the most accurate, and that's what Perplexity and Gemini pulled from. So again, just keeping in mind that Meta AI or AIOs or some of these other tools might be pulling from outdated or older data pieces, even when there's more recent and more accurate data that has been since released. So that was encouraging to see that Perplexity and Gemini did use more recent data. So that's just another little thing to keep in mind. And one more little pop quiz for you all here, just to take another pause. How often are you double checking your AI generated responses? How often are you, cross-checking what AI produces for you? Are you giving your AI generated content a ton of manual edits? Just type in that question box. Again, no right or wrong answer here. If people have a really refined AI strategy at this point, they probably are getting pretty accurate responses from AI tools. So some folks, Mark is saying he always checks. Love to hear it, love to see it. Of course, I would say that's probably the best recommended route, especially if you're new to using AI for your marketing and advertising, or again, if you're in like kind of a niche or specific industry, that can be helpful too. Some other folks saying always checking. I love to see it. Always checking, always, always, always. Veronica says, I don't even know how to check AI. That's great, because we're about to cover that next. Claire says, for legal content, we double check everything in Claude for legal accuracy. Yes, I've heard that Claude especially can be good for legal specific industry information. So that's always good to hear. And I do think that's another common practice. Like, even if you're like, all right, this is pretty basic, I don't necessarily need to do a ton of manual editing or checking. There are, again, legal discrepancies, especially with specific industries or high risk industries even, that you would want to be double checking. Lindsay says she always, always asks AI to send her the source. That's fair. Aspen says every time in all caps. Diana says she compares AI responses between apps. I definitely recommend that too. And that's something we talk about in this report that I definitely think is a good way to do it too, just to see, like, I highly recommend, like, if you're going to ask an AI tool to output anything for you, test it on like 1 or 2 tools, maybe even 3 to 5, just to see which one is giving you the best answer, the one that's giving you the most accurate answer, see what they have in common. And that can also help you pick out some of those inaccuracies, right? Yeah, for example, Kristen always also said that she triangulates to get the best response between her own research, organic content, and what AI would share. This is all super great. Thank you everyone for calling out, their answers here. And again, I wish I could shout out every one of you, but just another little warm up there to our next piece, which is, how can you spot those AI recommendations that might be off? And what are some tips when it comes to using AI in PPC and social media marketing and advertising and so on. So you want to choose an AI tool that best fits your needs. I just kind of mentioned this, but again, you want to make sure that you're not totally relying on one single AI tool for everything in search ads or social ads or whatever it may be. Again, one tool might be better than the other, and that's okay. So you might need a few different tools or access to a few different tools. And I saw a few folks calling out a few other tools that weren't part of this specific research report. Again, there's so much that you can go into when you're testing AI accuracy across tools. And between a ton of different questions and a ton of different tools, we kind of had to pull in the reins and make sure that we could get an accurate, feasible experiment out of this. So while I did cover the 5 here in this report, some other folks just shouted out Copilot and Claude and a couple other tools in that question box. Those are all great and viable tools too, and ones that I hope to test in this coming year as well. So keep your eyes peeled. We're going to do more of these reports in the future, which is really, really exciting. So yeah, I've heard mixed reviews about Claude. I personally haven't enjoyed my experience on Copilot, but I think maybe my opinion could change if I were to ask it more like objective or database questions. I've heard that some folks really like to use Copilot. So I can't speak on Claude or Copilot in relation to these reports, but great call outs there. Both great popular tools. Another fun little interesting anecdote is I did see recently that Microsoft readjusted their AI goals for 2026 because of variations and fluctuations in the Copilot usage. So that's just another interesting thing. If anyone's interested in that, you can go ahead and check that out later, search online for that. But I thought that was interesting too. So I think it's going to be a very telling year for all of these tools. Again, you want to be cross-checking your AI answers. So there's no tool, and I think this is objectively true beyond just these 5 tools, right? There is no such thing as a 100% accurate AI tool. There's just not right now. And probably, I don't know if there ever will be, because there's so much nuance to certain contextual things that people are asking. But again, remember, there is no tool that's 100% accurate. So just keep that in mind. Be ready to cross-check. And I think, I've noticed that when I have used AI for things, it can be easy to slip into a habit of just like using it and not cross-checking. An analogy that I use, this is so Colorado of me, but when I'm snowboarding, right, I snowboard, which I love to do. And sometimes towards the end of the day, I'm getting kind of sore. I'm getting kind of tired. I'm trying to keep up with my friends. I'm not that good. And towards the end of the day, maybe I get a little lazy and I'm not looking uphill to make sure that there's no one behind me as I like cross trail or something like that, which is really dangerous and I shouldn't do. But that's just another example of like how you could, get lazy, or you get into a habit, you say, I'm good. Oh, I've gotten so many good AI responses so far that I'm sure this one is fine. But it can be so easy to just get into that habit and not want to do the manual research, because all of a sudden that manual research just feels like so much more work, just like turning my neck uphill one more time, so sore. But it is worth it, right? So can feel like a lot of work to go back in and do your own manual research after, looking online, checking out other reputable sources, but it can make all the difference in your AI content. Another tool call out, I'll just take a pause for just that last point. I saw Sandy just mentioned Jasper too. We do have some information on the WordStream and Local IQ blogs that mention Jasper. We have a couple of really good prompt resources. So if you're trying to look for ideas to use AI in your marketing and social media and search ads, I would say check out our AI prompt posts. We do have Jasper specific prompts and examples in all of those posts. And we do mention Jasper in a couple of our other AI articles. So definitely check that out. Another tool that I would love to test this year. So hopefully we can build out more of these experiments and add that in. But just another call out. I've had some experience with Jasper that has been really positive. So I would say Jasper is another good tool. I felt like when I was using it, I did get some pretty accurate responses there. So I thought that was good. Great. So one of our last little tips here is, again, just don't become too reliant on AI. Human touch and oversight are critical to your marketing success. Now, the best practices that AI might recommend might not always be the best practices for your business or your specific goals. One example that I love to touch on is that, let's say you're asking AI, all right, what metrics do I need to prioritize in my search ads or my social media marketing? It might respond with like the typical default. I also, when I tested it, that's in this experiment. When I tested it, it pulled out a lot of like random metrics that I feel like no one ever really focuses on, that are like maybe a little bit more in depth or not as important. So keep that in mind too. But I would say it might recommend metrics that really don't matter to your business. Let's say, for example, you're running search ads and you're focused on brand awareness, and you ask ChatGPT, what metrics should I focus on for my search ads? And it doesn't know that you're focused on brand awareness. It might say click-through rate, or it might say conversion rate, which, yeah, those are important. But if your search ad campaign isn't there yet, impressions are probably what's going to be important, or impression share or something like that. And it might not call that out. So just another example there. Keep your eyes and ears open when you're testing your different AI tools. Now let's get into some ways that you can use AI for your search and social. And these are real things that we've tested, or based on real research that we've conducted here. So for example, we surveyed over 300 small businesses on how they are using AI for marketing. And some of the top use cases are for content creation and social media management, right? So for example, though, for lead management, we did see an increase in year over year in AI chatbots, marketing automation, and lead management, indicating that businesses are prioritizing a closed loop system from ad impression to conversion that is AI powered. And we have an AI powered lead management tool here at Local IQ that we call Dash. That's really cool. So just a couple examples of how businesses are currently using them if you want to draw some inspiration from businesses like you. But if you're using them in other ways, that's totally fine too. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting data point. And this is another annual report that we put out every year. So for example, another couple of ways that you could use AI in your search and social is for content repurposing. So you can say, all right, here's something that I've already published, right? So it's already approved, already edited, already looks good, and had like that, manual human touch to it. And you bring it back to your AI tool and you say, can you turn this into a blog post, or can you turn this into a social post? That's another quick and easy way. I would also recommend, if you are going to go this route, ask it for a couple of options. So if I'm taking a blog post and I want to turn it into a social post, and I say, can you draft me a couple different captions? And that way you can pick and choose and pull from the best ones to create your own unique caption that speaks best to your business. So just another little tip there. You can also use it to pull from online forums. So Reddit, Quora, and other niche messaging boards hold millions of unfiltered ideas and opinions you can use to guide your content marketing, product development, positioning statements, and so much more. There's so many conversations happening out there that it's nearly impossible for a human to sift through them all, but you can have AI do that for you. So in this experiment, we saw that someone took the role of a content marketer for a physical therapist and a running coach. And their goal was to get a list of questions from their target audience of runners that asked about nutrition, so that they could turn them into a series of blog and social media posts. So they got an editable prompt, and the example of this prompt here is something like, what are the questions that your target demographic are asking the most frequently about my topic, my service, my customer pain point? And then look for them on social sites like Reddit, and then tell that tool, look for them on social sites, Reddit, Quora, other places where this demographic would be asking those questions. And tell it to find as many as possible, and then categorize and rank them by frequency. So this is a pull out from a breakdown of a ton of different AI experiments that real marketing experts did, that we asked and interviewed, and they shared their results and their use cases for AI. So this is how one real marketer did it, which I thought was kind of cool. You can also have it to analyze your competition, right? So you might say something like, review these 3 competitor websites, and here's the links. And you want to analyze them for, pricing, how they show or hide prices, tiers, packages, and promotions, your competition's branding and messaging. See if AI can let you know, the tone they're using, the visuals, the value props they're using to appeal to customers, right? Some positioning and differentiation callouts. You can see if AI can tell you what makes each stand out or blend in compared to the others. You can ask it about your competitor's website experience. Ask it if it's noticing an ease of navigation, calls to action, how clear it is for a visitor to take a next step. Content and engagement too, right? So you can ask its if your competitors have a really high frequency use of blogs or FAQ pages or videos, reviews, other elements that build trust and engagement. And you could ask it to summarize those strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for a small business that's competing with them, which would be you, of course. And you can refine that prompt. That's just another kind of like light example there, but another cool one I thought. Now, we write a lot about the importance of online reviews for small businesses on our blogs and in our articles, but in my opinion, they're one of those marketing assets that are truly critical for growth, but also really difficult to wrangle, right? So especially if you're getting a lot of them. We experimented with AI to pull insights from customer reviews and spun it up into a full report on what it learned from dozens of websites and possibly hundreds of reviews. So with listening tools like the one we offer at Local IQ, you can see your average star rating and most recent reviews in an easy to read reporting and respond to reviews in real time and through an all-in-one platform. So that's just another example of how you can team up with AI or a marketing partner to level up your reputation management strategy. Now, let's talk about some of those key kind of takeaways that we covered here. I know this was a ton of information. Like I said, this was going to fly by, but a couple of things that I want you all to remember is to understand, be ready to understand the AI in the marketing landscape. It's kind of different, right? People are using AI, ChatGPT, whatever in their daily lives for travel planning, for whatever all the time, but it has so much, there's so much nuance when it comes to digital marketing, and it's a completely different world and a completely different landscape when you're starting to talk about AI and digital marketing. So just be ready to keep your eyes peeled for new AI resources like this report and so on to keep you at the ready to be ahead of your competition. Be ready to revamp your search and social ads, to be a part of the conversation in a generative AI search. So being sure that you're optimizing your content for AI, and we have a lot of tips on that in our blogs. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. And also you'll want a cross-channel strategy. It's essential for your lead flow. So since people are using a ton of different AI tools and you now have the ability to maximize your reach with all of these AI tools that can help you, there's really no reason to not have a cross-channel strategy. That way you're delivering a seamless customer experience on search, on social, and you're present at every possible touch point that you can have with your customers. And AI can help with that. And again, remember to just test your AI tools, but always give everything kind of a manual final edit. And use AI to develop a lead management system that works best for you, that makes sense for you, to help you nurture your leads and automatically, connect with them and make sure that you're moving potential customers through your funnel is so, so, so important. So I know that was a ton of information, so I'm going to give you all a sec here. If you have more questions or you're ready to see how you can best use AI in your marketing, definitely hit yes on that poll there to say, let's do it. Let's get a personalized assessment for free. And that way you'll be able to talk with the marketing expert at a later time to just see, how can you best use AI in your marketing, get any of your questions answered. For the folks that are putting in questions about their unique industry, their unique business, things like that, definitely this poll is up there for you. So this poll is going to take over your whole screen. There's no more slides. So once you answer that poll, just sit back and relax. We're switching to the audio portion of the webinar for the final 10 or 15 minutes or so here to get into the Q&A session. So we're going to leave that poll up. We're going to let it hang out while we do our Q&A. If you haven't dropped your questions into the chat, go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to try and answer as many questions as I can. There are a ton of questions coming in, so let me see all of these here. I'll give everyone a second to just gather themselves, answer that poll, type in their questions here. Okay, Aspen asked, with SEO, we can get an idea of the questions and keywords customers are asking. How can we do this with AI overviews? Is there a way to find out what questions are asked to AI agents about your product and services? Great question, Aspen. First, I will say that I did a report on AIOs as well, and it has some data in there as to what types of keywords are triggering AIOs. It's typically informational keywords. So any sort of like informational keyword, or I think it was informational and transactional. Those are the two main keyword intents, which are typically the most two popular keyword intents that people target anyway. But we do have some more data on that, on how frequently AIOs are showing up and when they're showing up, like what types of queries are triggering them. So mainly it's the informational and transactional keywords are pulling AIOs. Also, we found that long-tailed queries or longer queries tend to have a higher likelihood of getting an AIO. Medium cost keywords and queries have a higher likelihood of having an AIO. So those are just a few stats off the top of my head that hopefully help answer your question. There are some ways, there is data out there on like how often AIOs get triggered for certain keywords, and there might even be ones industry specific for your business. So it is out there. And there is a way to kind of know, what people are looking for when they're asking for AI agents. As far as ChatGPT, I was actually just looking into different keyword research tools today. And there are some tools out there that are now pulling, common questions and queries from AI tools as well, like ChatGPT and so on. So I would recommend just doing another, that is like a possibility. The data isn't as in-depth as like PPC or SEO data from like a keyword research tool that's just not available yet, as AI is still kind of new in a way, but it is something that you can find out. So good question there. Someone asking about the evolution of AIOs. I know there's a lot of concern about how AI overviews are impacting the search engine results page. We all can see it for ourselves when we make a search, that it takes up a significant amount of the page. Actually, in the report that I'm referencing, we found that it took up like at least 50% of the page on a mobile device. So Laura asks, do you think the new Google AI search will take out the Google business listings on the right side of the search screen? I haven't yet seen that. I actually have still seen Google business listings and Google Maps listings on AI overview inclusive pages. So I think that they're safe for now. Google hasn't announced any like specific updates to that. So I think those are safe for now. I honestly don't think those will go away, because Google Business Profile is such a huge major pillar of the Google Business Suite. So I'd say those are still going to be ranking. Todd asks, are you aware of any changes to Google's search algorithm to detect and downgrade AI produced content and pages? Good question, right? Because the easy answer kind of feels like, all right, well, I need to be creating this content that's going to rank in AI results. And I guess AI generated content will do that for me, and I need to build it out quick at scale. So can I create AI produced content and pages and have it not picked up? There has been a lot of conflicting research about this right now, so it's still kind of up for debate, honestly. But I will say this is another thing that we're going to research and experiment and report on this year. But we're going to try and see, all right, we're going to create this AI generated content and let's see how it ranks, or let's see how it does. There actually isn't a ton of data out there yet on whether or not Google is favoring or not favoring AI content. However, we tend to see right now something that's interesting that's getting pulled in from AI overviews. Another part of that report that I found was that AI overviews are pulling from lower ranking domains, So like typically you do a search and like the first 10 results, you know, those are high powered results. They're the top 10 ranking domains for that query, whatever. And they're usually pretty credible and pretty accurate. But it's been found that the majority of the time, AI overviews are actually taking sources from that would rank in like spots 10 to 20. So they're actually technically seen as like not as credible. So I don't know, like, does AI generated content equal lower quality or more or less credibility in the eyes of like an AI tool or an AI overview or Google search? I think that's still up for debate, but that's a great question. Some industry specific questions. A couple of people called out if we here at Local IQ help with certain industries. All the industries that you all called out, Local IQ does assist with. Good question there. Let's see. And if you have any other final questions, be sure to drop it in now. I think there was just one or two other ones. I wish I could just grab it. Let's see. One more question here. All right, coming in from this person here. As we see more, oh, this is a good one. Okay, as we see more quote unquote zero-click searches in 2026, how are we evolving our keyword strategy to capture high intent long tail queries that are traditional search wins still? I want to ensure we aren't overspending on broad terms that are now being handled by AI overviews. Good question. I think, again, like we had talked about earlier, some of those like conversational queries are still going to, you know, be pulling in those like transactional clicks that people are where they're clicking to your site and they're ready to convert. Yeah, zero-click searches have been on the rise. That was also mentioned in my AI overview report. Yes, it does result in zero-click searches where people are searching and then clicking off or get the answer right away. But I think that also emphasizes the need for a cross-channel strategy, right? So yeah, people are searching and they're not clicking right away. But again, they're still thinking about it. Maybe they go surf the web, they see your display ad, or maybe they come back and they're ready to click on an actual page. Because I think while consumers do tend to trust AI, there are some components that do lead to a little bit of distrust from consumers. And I think that people are aware now that they have to be more careful about just immediately trusting what an AI overview says and then clicking off. So great questions there. All right, great questions coming in. Thank you all so much for joining and participating today. I'll give you all back a few minutes of your time because I know you're so busy, but I hope this was helpful. Again, keep your eyes peeled for the recording. It'll be on YouTube and in your inbox later today. We do these webinars twice a month. We have another one coming up at the end of January, so I hope to see you all there. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.